the Deputy Minister of Social Development, Mr. Harif Hendricks, the Chief Executive Officer of SASSA, Ms. Jozitube Kambule, Acting Director General of Social Development, Mr. Peter Nichipale, Executive Managers of DSD, as well of SASSA. Ladies and gentlemen, let me greet the two young gentlemen that were brave enough to pick up some problems when they could be able to identify them in time. Well, I really appreciate that. It means that even on our exit, our country will be in good hands. I really appreciate you guys. The bravery that they displayed, the wisdom that they really showed that they are on it. So we have got leaders in there. Thank you so much. A very good morning to all of you. Honorable Chairperson, I must say I'm quite grateful for the opportunity to address this committee today on the very critical issue of alleged weaknesses in SASSA, social grants payment system, and fraud in the application process for SRD grant. We'll all remember how we came about to have SRD grant today. It came under very difficult circumstances when the country was overwhelmed by the COVID-19. So it's a grant that came up on a very short space of time, but really assisted a lot in addressing very basic things at the time, and it's still carrying our people to date. Honorable Chairperson, let me thank you for organizing this meeting to provide you with the necessary response to the alleged challenges in the SRD system. That's your work. That's what Constitution expects from you. So you should not be apologetic when you do that, because that's your responsibility. The nation is looking upon you to make sure that you play oversight into the executive. Honorable Chairperson, the Social Grants Program is our government's largest and most successful anti-poverty intervention. It covers a total number of 28 million beneficiaries. The success has been recognized the world over and has even won international awards from prestigious institutions, such as the International Social Security Association, which commands a membership of 320 social security institutions from 120 countries across the world. It is with a budget of 266 billion paid into accounts of vulnerable elder persons, children, and persons with disabilities. We understand the important role we play in staving off poverty and hunger among our people. Honorable Chair, the SRD grant makes up to 35 billion of the total allocation and covers an average of 8 million working age adults each month. After being confronted by this challenge that you were presented by the Stellenbosch students, our young men that are coming up okay to be in charge of their country, you have invited us here to come and respond on the issues raised and to shed light on the SRD application process and systems, and which is our responsibility. Indeed, we are here as requested by yourself, Honorable Chair, to provide such insight into the work of the Department of Social Development and its entity, the South African Social Security Agency. Honorable members, be aware that we live in a digital world which always poses some threats in our daily life if not properly managed. It is a growing concern globally, impacting individuals, governments, and organizations alike. As digital transformation accelerates, so too do the challenges of safeguarding personal data and ensuring the integrity of the systems we rely on. Unfortunately, this global issue has reached our shores, and we are seeing its effects in the very system we manage to serve the most vulnerable members of our society. Honorable Chair, I wish to assure the committee and our fellow South Africans that the department and SASSA takes very seriously and any allegation of fraud and corruption in our systems. We understand that any fraud in the system amounts to taking food out of the mouth of the poor, and this is unacceptable. As a result, SASSA has put very stringent systems and mechanisms in place to ensure that it achieves its motto, and its motto says paying the right grant to the right person every time. Honorable Chair, as a department, you take this challenge very seriously, particularly in the context of our social relief of distress, which is the SRD grant system. The integrity of our system and the protection of personal information are paramount, as they directly impact the lives of millions of South Africans who depend on our services. We recognize the concerns that have been raised, and we are committed in addressing them with the utmost urgency and diligence. It is through these systems that they have been unable to extend coverage from only 2.4 million in 1998 to the current 28 million beneficiaries as we speak. Since its establishment 18 years ago, SASSA has month after month successfully paid millions of beneficiaries who qualified for those grants. I therefore wish to assure our beneficiaries that the system is intact and SASSA is still able to discharge its mandate, and their social grants will be paid next month, the month after month, and for all other months in the future that they are entitled to them. We all know and understand that we are not doing them a favor, but it's their constitutional right, which responsibility has been given to the social development through its entity. Honorable Chair, we are conscious of the fact that our significant budget makes us a very attractive target for fraudsters, some of whom have made a career out of trying to steal this money by forming very sophisticated syndicates of cyber minimals to target this large budget. Of course, SASSA is fully aware of the risk, so they have put strong systems in place to detect and prevent fraud, and also investigate and prosecute any cases that are found to have managed to defraud the system. However, it is also important to note that these alleged issues are not unique to South Africa. It is a global issue that affects financial institutions, government agencies, and private organizations worldwide. Whether it is a credit card fraud, unauthorized access to system, or the misuse of personal identification numbers. Identity thefts presents a threat that demands constant vigilance and innovation in how we safeguard our system. Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, the allegations made by the student are extremely concerning. However, they are still only allegations at this stage, since the students have not favored the Department of SASSA with any reports or evidence to support the allegation, which I guess will get that opportunity. I can confirm to this committee that neither SASSA nor the department has been favored with any of the research that the students have undertaken, nor have the students acceded to several invitations from SASSA to come and present their findings. I guess they did not feel comfortable, but we're happy that it is in your hands. They felt that they can come and present. Nonetheless, Chair, I wish to assure this committee that I view this allegation in the most serious light and have directed SASSA to initiate investigations into the matter. However, in the absence of reliable information from the source of the allegation, SASSA has not been able to complete its investigation. Our response, therefore, will be one of the both responsibility and resilience. Responsibility in ensuring we address vulnerability and take decisive actions to secure our systems, and resilience in recognizing that no system is immune to attack in an interconnected world. What defines us is how we respond to these challenges and the proactive steps we take to protect our citizens and our beneficiaries. Honorable Chair and members, it's important to note that I, as a minister that provides oversight to the agency, have demanded that we take drastic steps to investigate this matter fully, with the aim of ensuring that the alleged security breaches are addressed and dealt with accordingly, including our own collaboration with cybersecurity experts, law enforcement agencies in the country to ensure and enhance the protection of personal information. Honorable Chair, committee members, we are committed to transparency and accountability as we work to address these issues and ensure the continued trust of the public. Chair, I will now hand over to the CEO of SASSA to take us through some preliminary input and responses as requested by yourself on the workings of the SRD system. to provide some comfort to our beneficiaries that we do have systems in place to tackle fraud while also ensuring that our system do not exclude deserving applicants from accessing their grant. Honorable Chairperson, I look forward to discussing these matters further after having put decisive measures beyond what has been done over the period of the grant as we picked up challenges. Together, we can strengthen our defenses and continue to provide secure and reliable services to those who need them most, which are the most vulnerable people in our country. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I really appreciate those words because I believe in this room are partners towards ensuring that the lives of South Africans that have been categorized as poor and vulnerable are changed, even if it's in a small little way, that we can do it together. I believe I nearly said the Honorable CEO. I believe the CEO will present later, but I do now have your handing over to her when the time comes for her to respond. I will now take this opportunity to hand over to Mr. Cedras and Mr. Hosai to present to us in whatever way you planned to present. You just go through your presentation as less technical as possible, please. Because what I know about IT is criminal. So I could be speaking for many people.
I will appreciate the share with us technical ability because some of us were students of the ICT, so that when we make contribution, we have substantive findings from themselves. I will appeal.
I would like to stick to my guns that there's probably yourself, Honorable Munyai, and maybe two others that are IT specialists. I would like to ask that you open the door to the Honorable Member to engage with you at a technical level. I wouldn't understand what you are talking about if you just went technical. I don't know if the members agree with me or not, because we need to understand, as a layman would understand on the ground, what is going on, what could be going on, and how can we, deal with what is going on. I would hate for it to be a technical presentation to the layman people that are affected or could be affected by this thing. But when you ask the questions, you can then bring in your technical acumen and help us all learn technicality. But I don't believe that the presentation itself should be speaking to technical people. I believe it should be talking to the honorable members who are public representatives who are here to represent people and in as layman a term as possible. I don't know if I'm lost here. But go ahead and present.
Good morning, honourable members, the Portfolio Committee, our honourable chairperson, and members of the and the honourable minister. Today, me and Joel Cedras will be providing our presentation on a brief on our findings in the SASSA SRD system. Our agenda today is as follows. We're going to go through our introduction, methodology, legal frameworks used, our findings, and recommendations. Without further ado, I'd like to pass it on to Joel to do the introduction.
Good morning. My name is Joel Cedras and I'm sitting next to Veer Gasai, and we are two first-year students studying computer science at Stellenbosch University. We are young, concerned students, citizens in this country. In February of this year, I tried to apply for the SRD grant, but to no avail. It said that I already had an application. 3 weeks ago, I spoke to Veer about this, and we found out that Veer also has an application. And from here, we decided to find out what had happened with our applications. Our methodology is as follows. First, I held an informal on-campus verbal survey where we asked participants to enter their ID number so that we can check whether or not they have an SRD application active. If an application was found, we then asked whether or not they created that application themselves. We generated ID numbers using the ID algorithm and fed these into the SRD system. This system tells you whether or not an ID number has an application or not. And these results were then aggregated, and from here we drew conclusions. We also compared these numbers with various relevant figures such as Stats SA birth data and unemployment figures. We ended up identifying 3 complications in this process. Firstly, we found that there was no form of authentication on SASSA's SRD portal. This allowed us to query the portal hundreds of thousands of times. Secondly, we found many suspected fraudulent applications. And thirdly, we feel that it is simply too easy at the moment to apply for the SRD grant, and this enables fraudsters to apply very easily. Throughout this process, we only used legal methods to gather our findings. This included the public SASSA SRD portal. This portal is publicly available for anyone to use, and all we needed to check whether or not someone had an application was an ID number, which we then generated.
How did we generate these ID numbers? Well, through visiting various government websites, this is completely publicized information. For those of you who don't know, ID numbers are generated in the following way. It's your year you were born, followed by the month, the day, 4 digits which will range from 0 to 4,999 if you are female. Then it goes from 5,000 to 9,999 if you're male, followed by 08, and then a checksum digit which we can calculate using a little bit of math. We created a program which allowed us to generate ID numbers sequentially, which we could then feed into the SASSA system to get a response from.
As part of our on-campus informal survey, we asked 60 people that we know to verbally participate in our survey. What they did was they entered their ID numbers into the portal and checked whether or not they have an application. Of these 60 people, 58 of them had active applications, and of those 58, 56 of them did not make the application themselves.
We ran a few wider tests with the IDs we were able to generate, and the first test we were able to run was testing all 280,000 possible ID numbers for people born in February 2005. The data and results we got from this was we received positive impact from the public SASSA system that there were 74,931 active applications for people born in February 2005. From Stats SA, we were told that there were 82,097 people born for that year. That correlated to an application rate of just over 91%. Highly unlikely when we look at youth unemployment, which is at around about 60.8% as of the latest Stats SA report. The second mass scale test that we did was we tested the first possible 1,000 ID numbers for people who were born from the 1960s to 2006. What we found from this was there was an average application rate of about 52%, but when we look at the data from 1960 to 2001, there was a 50% application rate versus the application rate for people born from 2002 to 2006 was 90%. This is relevant because these are people born from 2002 to 2006 turned 18 when the system was implemented and are the most vulnerably targeted people that we think were being targeted in this system. Let's look at mine and Joel's personal case. When we discovered that we had active SASSA applications, Obviously, there was no way to guarantee whether we had been paid a SASSA grant. But after digging in some more, we managed to find a hidden bank account on my ID number that I never opened up. And from this, I was paid out 2 SASSA grants to my personal ID number that was stolen by the scammers and fraudulently transferred to their bank accounts. This was very problematic in a few ways. Firstly, the SASSA limit for whether a SRD grant can be paid is around about 624 Rand, which means if you have more than 624 Rand of bank account activity or money in your bank account that is being transferred in or out, you should not automatically not be qualified for the SASSA SRD grants and should be not paid out that. However, regardless of the fact, in July 2023 and November 2023, according to the SASSA system, I was paid a SRD grant, even though I far exceeded the means income required and transacted in that month with more than 624 Rand in and out of my bank account.
In my personal case, I turned 18 on the 30th of December last year. This year, in the first week of January, a bank account was made in my name and someone had created a SASSA application with my ID number. We have numerous recommendations for SASSA, but it's important to understand that we are not experts on this matter. We are simply concerned students who want to help. We recommend that SASSA firstly looks at restarting the entire grant system. It seems like there are too many applications that are being made without people's knowledge, and we feel like it would be too difficult for SASSA to detect all of these fraudulent applications. By restarting the whole grant system, it allows for SASSA to re-verify everyone, but with stricter verification processes in order to combat fraud.
Secondly, when it comes to stricter verification processes, we would like to see facial or biometric verification for everyone. Those who do not have smartphones, who are capable of doing this, should be able to go into their local SASSA office to complete this verification. We understand that the people receiving these grants are of utmost vulnerability in this situation and that they need this money the most. Even if they do not have access to smartphone technology, they should still be able to verify themselves. The second thing is we advocate for further verification when creating an application. Currently, all you have to provide is your full name, your surname, and ID number to apply for an SRD application. This is not enough. We think that by working with Home Affairs, that SASSA can improve their systems by adding more validation that would leave fraudsters unable to create applications on people's names. The first suggestion we make is the smart card issue date. If you look at the back of your smart ID card, you'll see an issue date. The Department of Home Affairs does use this to validate that you are the holder of that ID card and could reduce fraud significantly, as scammers would not be able to test every possible date.
In addition to these recommendations, we also recommend that SASSA implements rate limiting on their system. By rate limiting, we mean that you limit the amount of times a single device or IP address is able to make a request to the system. So for example, one device should not be able to make hundreds of applications in a day.
In our testing, through one single device, we were able to make 700 requests a minute to the SASSA server. That should not be possible. We strongly advocate that SASSA should implement rate limiting per device. One single device on one IP address should not be allowed to make 700 requests to the server a minute. Finally, we really want to extend a hand to SASSA and say that we are willing to collaborate and co-create in this situation. As Joel has stated, we are concerned citizens who would love to have additional input into the situation, and we just want to partner. We think we'll be able to assist SASSA in this matter, and by working with us, we can reform the SRD system to make sure that the most vulnerable people in South Africa are able to get this grant money who are the most in need of it. Thank you to the House.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I wasn't aware, I'm a very new chairperson, so I don't know if one can clap in the House. So I appreciate the initiative of the members just clapping like that, because we thank you for your presentation. It was not as technical as I believe Honorable Munyai wanted it to be, but I believe that it balanced for all of us to understand what it is that you were able to do. And so we appreciate that, and we thank you so much. I will now allow the members of Parliament, the honorable members, to ask questions or comment on your presentation before we go over to the department and SASSA to respond. I see Honorable you, Honorable Member, Makhato. I have no idea why I have such a problem, because my surname is Masango, so another Ma something should be easy to come to me. Honorable Makhato, Honorable Munyai, Honorable Mare, Honorable Abrams, Honorable Reverend, and Honorable James. Honorable Tafeni will be the last one. Oh, Honorable Ramaila will be the last one. Thank you so much. You can start, Honorable Makhato.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. We welcome the report. But the committee has services consideration, and it must take regarding tabling the item in the current context. As the two Stellenbosch students have made serious allegations against SASSA, which have serious financial and also security and other implications. So we want to use the things which we understand and which we can know this is the right thing. These are particularly concerning considering the critical role played by SASSA in serving millions of violence. At the same time, in serving millions of variables, South Africans, so funded through the public purse. So in this way, we don't understand. We can hear, but we don't understand how our learners are putting their things. So that is why Munyai was speaking about the technical report. So now we didn't hear the technical report. Thank you very much.
Shall I?
Thank you, Honorable Makhato. Honorable Munyai.
Esteemed Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Minister, the Deputy Minister, Acting DGs, sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your last name, but students, parents, everyone, SASSA CEO, and honorable members. First and foremost, as the African National Congress, we are not synonymous to corruption or fraud. In other words, as a matter of principle and fact, we don't support any forms of corruption, fraud as the African National Congress. And I'm saying because I introduced myself as the member coming from that organization. Maybe it's important, first and foremost, to welcome the presentation. But I must say, Honorable Chairperson, the allegation that was made in the media by the student, allow me for the ease of reference, it's not disrespect to say the students because I don't want to have difficulties in pronouncing their name. If you are to, it was technical, the allegation they made. I thought it would be important, even if they put in the layman's language, also to share with us that technical issue so that, if you come and say that we need to improve the system and you don't demonstrate technical issues, because one of the things that arose, and I think they must confirm, they confirm that they use algorithm, which means you can use algorithm, Chairperson, even it's a simple things, to hack as well. You can use that. It can also manipulate the numbers. It can does everything, So all I'm saying is that, but of course, with respect to coding, that it can does that. So all I needed to say again, another principle, Chairperson. When we made an oath as honorable members, and I think we've agreed also to conduct oversight, robust oversight to the department. One thing that I want to put up front, we take serious matters of security, national security, or system of government and its agency, very, very serious as honorable members. And I'm sure we must use our skill to the best of our ability in the context of conducting oversight to make sure that the state information is protected. And as the Honorable Minister would have touched some of the issues of POPIA Act are very critical, are very, very critical. The issues of getting into the information, I'll come back, getting into the information of the state or its organ. It's also a very critical issue to us. We are taking these issues with a very seriousness. And we're not here to defend you, Minister, here. We're not here to defend SASSA. We have no obligation to do that. Our oversight responsibility want the truth. But in the overview of the Honorable Minister, committed that, she's still going to conduct investigation, which means, in my view, Honorable Chair, on the side of the agency, if the investigation on the part of SASSA and the department is not done, it's not done. So I don't see the need, and I'm sure I'll deliberate when SASSA is being called upon. But with respect to issues of getting access to information, there's a simpler way of using algorithm and coding and so on, which can do. But also, there's what we call in military reconnaissance, where the people that want to conduct such, they plan about such an operations. They may try to, they are to understand the target that they want to do. And I'm sure that there are many targets around elsewhere else, including the private sector. But I'm saying reconnaissance in the context that they plan, prepare that we are going to conduct these following activities at this targeted agency. It's not by accident. There's a lot of planning that goes into the process. So the other thing that I will use intruder, alleged intruder. I'm not saying you are the intruder because further details, if that you put, need to be able to do that. But Chairperson, I think the Minister has said it, that, in the interconnected world, vulnerabilities of the various institutions, it's a possibility. And I'm not saying it's a fact, but SASSA will speak for themselves. But I must say, for one to be able to detect, to detect to what extent the system has been breached. I'm saying using to detect. So there have to be an investigation. So my clear recommendation from the onset, Minister, as a matter of urgency, within 30 days must go and conduct such an investigation and bring up report before the portfolio committee. And if they have difficulties with the timeline, they know where to find the chairperson to request for extension. And other key issues, chairperson, there are those that are coming to conclusion even before the investigation. Mobilizing society as a pseudo-ministers. I'm not saying you do that. As a pseudo-minister to say, hey, all over, everybody come to me and Chidzimnyai organization, here, bring any other forms of attack. How can you mobilize an attack against the state? That should not happen. And I'm sure we'll deal with it at the appropriate time. So lastly, Chairperson, because they did not present a technical question, technical issues, they want to collaborate without technicality. I'm not going to ask them technical questions they did not present, and by request and by design of the presentation. But for me, I'm very committed that we need a minister. Remember, you don't seek collaboration, because I would appreciate that the student must also go and present before the department. And whether the department decide to collaborate or not to collaborate with them, it will be their businesses. I'm saying I cannot have an attempt on the country's national security system with a view to seek to collaborate with them. It doesn't work that way. No, but I'm saying that we should say it's important to come and enlighten what they have. They have raised it, you have brought them here, and I think we should welcome that part. We should not attack the message that they're trying to bring. But unfortunately, they didn't bring the technical area that will allow me to engage on technicality, either from coding perspective, deep algorithm perspective, either for, because there are a number of things that you do, harvesting of the emails, number of options. And even ultimately, I would appreciate that if the department minister, as part of the consideration, if they can consider to come up with cyber range to resolve these problems. It exists, this system exists, and there are people that are capable in the Republic to resolve those issues. That is my concrete recommendation. Because I cannot engage further on technical issues with you because you didn't present a technical report. And I'm sure you are trying to protect yourself. You're trying to protect yourself, which is understandable. I will do the same so that I don't want, in case, if this matter is with the law enforcement, either on cybersecurity breach, either on number of things, laws are there, that the cyber command and the agents of government should do. But lastly, it's my appeal. 30 days, Minister, without fail. We want to get outcome of the investigation. And we're not here to attack you. We're here to get to what you wanted. I didn't get technicality. And I know you just said brush off algorithm without coding. You can't finalize your work. But it's important for now. I don't want to take the time. If there's something that they clarify, I may want to come back if they come up with technicality. But as a matter of urgency, we need investigation. Without investigation, in fact, there's no reason for SASSA to share anything with us.
Thank you,
Honorable
Speaker.
Maria.
I want to say thank you to these young boys today for what they have presented to us. Because if you go back, communities are struggling. The CEO knows. I have a gentleman from Nelson Mandela municipality that's been struggling now for 2 years to get his SASSA. Someone is getting the money on his behalf. A baby that was born last year, November, couldn't get money for almost a year because someone else was getting the money. And what it is true, what the young boys are saying is that there is somehow, there is a technicality that we have to look at. Because during the election campaign, political parties were signing up people for SRD grants because a lot of people don't have a cell phone or a phone where you can do the application. Myself, I did my sister's one because she don't have a cell phone. So to assist people to get these SRD grants, but in the meantime, there's a loophole where other people come and make money. And if you look at the corruption happening within SASSA, it is a big problem. Yes, we can talk about technicalities and we can talk about all the other things, but the reality is staring us in the face. People out there are struggling to get the money. That is why the EFF view is always, when the child is getting SASSA money, automatically when he goes to high school or to the university, his name must be there for NSFAS already. It must, the one department must interlink with the other department so that the one don't go back to the other one and ask what is happening, because the Home Affairs is there to say, but this child has been born in that day. So that is why I always say departments need to speak to one another because they are duplicating the same thing. And we are just saying that, yes, now there is the SASSA is going to tell you now, no, we got face verification. But the face verification is also, people are struggling with it because I had a guy from the Eastern Cape, the rural area, and his mother was doing his application. But the mother didn't go home during the week, she only went home weekends. So for her to do the verification was difficult because her son doesn't have a cell phone. And it is for the children that is now 18 years old, leaving school, that is unemployed, and now we have the matriculants that is finishing school, another thousands is going to stay at home that is also going to get SASSA grant. So we need to come up with a proposal, a position on how are we going to do this effectively. First of all, you cannot go into SASSA's office to do the SRD grant. It must be done over the phone. But if I don't have a phone, how am I going to do that? And if I don't have a cell phone that can have the face verification, how am I going to get the money? And people are frustrated by the system because they are struggling. There's nothing that we can run away with that. And even the AG was saying, we need to come up with proposals because there's supposed to be a timeline. But in the next 10 days, your application will be done. And it is not done. So we are not here to come and attack and to fight with you. We are here to come out with a solution on how are we going to create an atmosphere for everyone that is unemployed, because we say we want to have application for 18 years old to 59 years old. But if we can't just get this SRD grant right, how are we going to do that for the broader community that is unemployed? So we need to come up with a system. Yes, these young boys took an initiative. They show that there's flaws in the system. So we need to come up with how we can address these flaws and how we can make sure that this corruption is not happening. And the worst part is people that is working in the department knows about these creatures, they knows about these flaws. And that is why there's such a lot of corruption happening within the department and people that is working for the department. So that is what I'm saying is that I would salute these young boys. They did a great job by interviewing 60 people, getting their views, putting their names on. It just shows you nothing is 100%. And it is true what the minister is saying. Yes, we are not the only ones that is going through this thing. If big banks like F&B and Capitec and all those big institutions can be linked into and corruption and breaches is happening there, who are we as a government institution for not getting that? So because we are here for the most vulnerable, the poorest of the poor, we need to make sure that we are solid and that there's not going to be any penetration into the system. Yes, we know that there is boffins out there that knows computers and technicalities and all that. But if we can come up with something that is more permanent, that is more secure, then I would agree with that, because I know the department is busy with a new system that they are implementing in all the SASSA offices. But if they can look into this thing, I will be very happy. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Murray. Honorable Abrams.
Thank you, Chairperson. And Chairperson, first let me thank you for calling this urgent committee at an issue that strikes at the very heart of the social contract with our most vulnerable citizens in our country. I wish to thank Joel and Ver for your presentation and for your project. You did this project in what I've heard within 3 weeks. You know, in government things takes very long, but you managed to put this all together in 3 weeks when you should be preparing for your examination. So thank you very much to that. But you've also given us a research report on what members of this committee have been saying for over the years since the introduction of the grant, and that is that eligible beneficiaries are being locked out of the system. And if you take your 60 applicants with all the emails that we've been sending through to SASSA over the years, plus Chairperson with the DA has called for, you know, other people who have been facing problems with the SRD grant. In the space of 5 days, we've already got another 140 odd people who have from across the country who have indicated they too have been locked out of this grant. Their ID numbers have too been taken up by fraudsters and they are not receiving the grant. So I think as this goes on, more people will be coming forward to say this has happened to me as well, which then goes back to, you know, Minister, your opening remarks where you said, you know, the system does not exclude beneficiaries. Well, here's the evidence. The system does exclude eligible beneficiaries. So, Chairperson, I also just would like to highlight that this fraud and criminal syndicate seems to be targeting a vulnerable group, our young people, our youth. They have exploited the country's high unemployment rates. They have exploited the fact that not many youth who are then turning 18 years old will actually be aware of this grant or aware of how to apply for this grant. And therefore they don't immediately apply for a grant that they are eligible for, you know, because they've turned 18. So it's these fraudsters and criminals who are then locking these young people out of receiving this grant. And we've learned that this grant stands between them and transport to a job interview. It stands between them and data to apply for that job opportunity. And it's turning young and vulnerable young people, like women, like young girls, who become more economically dependent on abusive older men just to sustain themselves so that they have a slice of bread before they go sleep at night. So that is the reality of the situation that we find ourselves in. And we can talk about numbers and figures and stats and all of that, but it is the human being, the humanity that this grant is supposed to be the social protection floor of that has now seems to have found cracks in it, and people are falling through. Young people becoming despondent with their government who is meant to care and protect them, but they are not feeling that because we are in this situation. And Chairperson, it would appear that this SRD grant is somewhat of a double-edged sword because we need it to be easily accessible for everybody without smartphones in the most rural parts of our country to apply, but we also need it to be secure enough so that syndicates out there are not able to penetrate. So my clarity-seeking questions for the presentation, and I've watched some of your interviews, so I've know some of the answers that I've been assisted with, and I've seen some of the things. But just for me to understand your timeline of engagement with SASSA, you know, when did you first try to reach out to SASSA to notify them of your findings, and how did you do that? Did you do that via their contact numbers? Because we know that's also an issue when many people try to reach SASSA, because the Minister has indicated you've been invited on several occasions to come and engage with SASSA, but if you can just get clarity on that and why hasn't that engagement's happened. Then to also ask, have you been approached by any of the banking institutions for you to come and present your findings to them? Because Chairperson, as we've heard, there are actual bank accounts been fraudulently created. So there is some responsibility on behalf of the financial institutions to play its role. And then I'd also like to understand what other, if you are able to give the information, what other government databases you used in your findings, and if you've notified, if any of those other government departments have been in contact with you to identify their vulnerabilities. And then I've got another question. The students that you surveyed on your campus, did they have an understanding that the SRD grant was meant for the destitute? It was meant for the very poor of the poor who, like I say, this grant stands between them and going to bed hungry. And if not, you know, what was their understanding of this grant? And then, you know, lastly, Chairperson, I've gone through SASSA's presentation and I have a series of questions for them, but I think for the same reason that SASSA has indicated in their presentation, there are certain things they cannot take us through on this televised platform for security reasons. I imagine there are also certain things that the students cannot take us through because it is being broadcast to not just South Africa, but, you know, outside of South Africa. And you know, we have South Africans watching to find out what is going on, but we also have criminals watching, because at the end of the day, this is a 250 billion rand cash cow, SASSA and the social grants. So it's 250 billion rand that the department gives to SASSA that is at stake here. So Chairperson, I will leave it there, and the rest of the questions I will have afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Abrams. Honourable Reverend Kobaza.
Thank you, Chairperson, Honourable Minister, Honourable Deputy Minister. Thank you for the presentation. There are a number of things. We must know that SASSA is a very important vehicle to give grants to the people for the country. And it cannot be exposed to anyone for security reason. There are a number of things. One is the sampling. It is important to acknowledge that you've did that 60 of your sampling out of 17 million people that actually get those applications or have done those applications. I think SASSA should then begin to do more of the samplings to see if ever is it an isolated incident or it's everywhere. I don't believe that it is a system itself or a technical system itself. I think it's a human challenge we are facing. One is because the IDs that were fraudulent IDs that were done, and there's fraudulent bank accounts that were opened. So that is out of SASSA itself. So the system itself, I think it's mainly, it's easier for the people to access it. So maybe we should make it harder, but are we going to be able to reach the poor of this country in the rural areas if we make it harder to access the system? So this is outside of SASSA. Opening a bank account is outside of SASSA. We should then contact FICA, the FICA and the banks and the FSA or whoever there is there to clarify that. Maybe there are humans then in SASSA also who are helping the fraudulent, but we don't know. So the whole presentation, it's about fraud. For me, it's not about the system itself, because there's no technicalities itself that says, okay, in the technical, this is how we hacked it or something, if there were hackers to hack the system itself. But the system, it's easier for somebody to put an ID number and the name, and they'll get the application and whatever happens. And it's good, the guys they're able to generate their own IDs and all of that. I don't know, I don't know if it's allowed to generate IDs, number of IDs, me, myself, you know. I think it's a difficult thing to do. I haven't done IT, but if I can generate IDs of people and put them in, is that allowed, you know, to check? I really think that's, Minister, the investigation around the whole thing should be done, and then we should get a report out of it. Because there are two things here. It's either human fraud or the system itself. But for me, it's not the system itself. The system is easier to lodge an application. That's all it's there. I think let me stop there. Yeah, let me stop there. The sampling, the ID, the applications. Yeah, thank you. That's fine.
Thank you, Honorable Reverend Kobaza. Honorable James.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. I want to acknowledge these two brave youngsters for standing up for their country and being passionate about doing right to their fellow peers. Chair, I want to tell you this. In July 2023, Bonnie Songs and Elizabeth Reuters blew the whistle on this very matter that we are addressing here today. It was not the first time. I'm glad that it's finally getting the attention that it deserves. In my possession, I have an email dated the 19th of the 9th, 2023. We are now sitting here almost a year later, addressing the very same issue. From Bonnie Songs to there's a Brenton van Vreed and a Maputi. I want to read that email to you that actually takes us back to July that year. I've received a message also from Elizabeth Reuters, who's an activist in the community of Eldorado Park and who assists beneficiaries, and she writes to me, I'm an activist and work on a daily basis directly with beneficiaries. Last year around March, we started getting queries of beneficiaries who turned 18 in 2005 and tried applying for the SRD, but all of them got the message, grant already active. We hereby informed SASSA about it, and as these cases were coming in, the account would get blocked and the beneficiary would have to reapply. In this process, beneficiaries lost some months that was supposed to be paid to them. Later in the year, we noticed that it was not only 18-year-olds, but even beneficiaries who had lost their jobs and tried to apply. SASSA has been working with us trying to resolve these cases, but the problem is still persisting as we still deal with these cases on a daily basis. I also have in my possession the email written on the 19th of the 9th, 2023 from Bonnie Songs to Maputo, as well as Brenton. Good morning all. This matter of unauthorized applications for SRD grant is very disturbing and it needs to be attended urgently. I've personally reported this in July 2023 and Mr. Maputo phoned me and I tried to explain my suspicions and my son was also a victim. The perpetrator of this offense has probably accessed these grants and worst and painful part is that I reported this matter to SASSA, provided the details of the victims, and SASSA hasn't acted to date. SASSA has failed the eligible beneficiaries because this could have been stopped immediately and ways to prevent this could have been created already. We demand SASSA to investigate this matter and treat as a matter of urgency. This would be a concern that all these young adults were born in 2005 and all experiencing the same predicament, and that alone is raising suspicions. It's totally unacceptable that the fraud is at a high scale at the moment. Every 18-year-old trying to access to apply shows grant already active. This needs urgent attention and needs to be investigated urgently. Below are the details of affected eligible applicants as samples. So, Chair, I think what is shocking is the fact that this is not the first time this matter has been raised. It's probably been raised 100 times. I want to ask, why hasn't this matter been flagged previously? And was that email attended to? What was the response? How did the department act on it? I also want to say my concern while I'm sitting and listening to everyone is we're going to now take another, I'm not sure how many years, to investigate and try to resolve something that is blatant, that is being raised by so many people from different provinces, from different spaces, and yet we are still going to sit here and say we are in doubt. This, with no consequence management, and the Minister, I think in my maiden speech I said to you that the corruption, alleged corruption in this department is rife. And I say to you, listen to this committee. There's a lot happening in SASSA. And it's going to take time to sort of reveal all of this. The reality is that there are millions of vulnerable people at this moment going hungry as we speak. There are millions watching and depending on this committee to find a resolve to what is happening. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable James. Honourable Ramaila.
Thank you, Chair, and greetings once more to the Minister, the Deputy Minister, Department, and my colleagues. I also want to join colleagues who appreciated the initiative taken by the students to alert the department to possible or alleged breach of the system.
Honourable Ramaila, your voice is so soft. If you can just,
Okay.
yes,
All right.
thanks.
Thank you. No, thank you very much. I was saying I must join also my colleagues in appreciating the students in alerting the department to possible breach of the system or alleged corruption. That must well be appreciated. But also must be thankful to the sixth administration that saw it fit during the crisis time of COVID to really come up with an intervention mechanism, and which of course you all know you would always have unintended consequences. But I think this is also, as we appreciate, it's an eye-opener to the department to really consider fortifying once more the system so that it should be security measures should be improved so that it cannot be easily penetrable. But also an understanding the fact that the kind of people that we are dealing with come from diverse backgrounds. The system, I understand, is very user-friendly in order to accommodate people who come from diverse backgrounds, and in particular rural people. In interactions as we do oversight, they really appreciate how the system is user-friendly. And of course, there will always be opportunists who would want to take advantage of that. Chair, I think it's also of material concern, Chairperson, in terms of all the allegations which have been made to be entertained in today's meeting and been made in the media and have not been authenticated through any investigation. And therefore, I want to agree with colleagues who have suggested that the department should go investigate the matter. And within 30 days, even if it's a preliminary report, that report be presented to this portfolio committee. Chair, because I'd like to take you from what you said, that the presentation should be able to averagely accommodate all of us, even those that are not technical in as far as IT is concerned. I would have wanted to ask questions to the students, but I also, upon second thought, as a parent, I also felt that this should be an opportunity to them to assist them in their career pathing. But there may be questions that we may be attempted to ask them here that might make them to leave this sitting with those negative feelings that might also affect the career pathing that as parents we are supposed to be surely making that they indeed become what they envisage to be. And over and above these critical issues, Chair, which pertain to the system weaknesses at SASSA, this committee has a duty and obligation to also interrogate the two students, as I've said. But I said it might be unfair to them, largely to the extent that they've made us aware. We really appreciate that. But to the extent that the entry point that they have used to raise the matter is a matter that I may want to engage with them, but I also felt it's not necessary now. The fact is that I think we should recommend that they should be available to the department to present to the department fully, so that the department could have a full grasp of the technical issues that they are raising, which they haven't raised in their presentation. So the department, when it responds, it must be able to respond fully on this matter. Chair, the actions of the students cannot just be taken at face value as a fact. We really need a conclusive report to guide us on the extent and of the legality of the students' actions, so that we do not find ourselves legitimizing potential unethical actions or contravention of legal and ethical frameworks. And I'm sure they are quite aware of those sort of things, and we wouldn't want to go into that, but I request really the department to really delve deep into those sort of things. And this is all to say, Chair, that the base of which this item is considered is based on hearsay and the public media. So I think this committee has not been empowered with a report which has investigated these claims and provides evidence of whether the students are alleging is true or not. I may, for instance, would have wanted to understand the social background of the students, and it would actually be unfair to them to raise that matter here. It's a private matter that can be answered to the department. The department will be capacitated to respond to such a matter when they bring back the report to us. And I believe by deferring this item until the investigation is concluded, the committee sends a clear message that ethical standards matter, as the investigation could yield results that either affirm or refute the findings of the students, so that even in future, we should also be able to some sort of lay standard procedures as to whenever the public suspects some sort of allegations, what should be the entry point, so that we don't get tomorrow flooded as a portfolio committee with issues that will deviate us from the main job that we are supposed to be concentrating on. If the investigation corroborates the findings of the students, Chair, the ANC will suppose that the committee publicly acknowledges this and ensures that the findings are shared with the public to ensure truth, transparency, fairness, and accountability. Lastly, Chair, furthermore, if the findings of the students can be authenticated, this will also be a call to action for the portfolio committee to strengthen its oversight processes, not only over SASSA, but the NDA and department more broadly. The committee must oversee to ensure that the necessary corrective actions are taken to close the system gaps. In any system, Chair, it has to be upgraded. But lastly, I will also still want to appreciate the manner in which we have approached the matter, because we were not informed by the sensationalization that we have seen out there. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Ramaila. Honorable Tafeni.
Enkosi Chairperson, ndibulisa kwakhona ku-Minister, Deputy Minister, and the honorable members of the committee. Chairperson, ndicinga uba as uba kudala siyithetha imeko yezi department ukuba masibe ne-link eyi-1, Home Affairs to SASSA to the Department of Education. So iyacaca since 2015 siyithetha ayikenzeki, because during 2015 there is abantu ababepeyela abantwana abangenabo iimbombozi, sathi makubekho i-link. So iyacaca ke kusekhona umcelimngeni. Ndibulele Chairperson kwi-student about the presentation. I want to clarify in slide 8, what does it mean? Does it mean that almost everyone born in February 2005 are declared to have later applied for the SRD grant? Also, what is the probability of that happening? Because the percentage of those applications is so high, it's almost like everyone born in that month later applied. Also in slide 10, I will be corrected to say there are people receiving SRD grant not only under your name and ID numbers, but also using banking details, which includes your own details in them. Okwesithathu, Chair. So when you found deficiencies and possible fraud indication within the SASSA portal, which avenues did you use to try and conduct SASSA to bring these issues to their attention? And what was the attitude from SASSA officials or lack thereof? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, honorable members. I think that was the last honorable member to comment and ask questions. I will now hand over back to Mr. Hosai and Mr. Cedrus for the responses. And you would have obviously heard that most was the comments. And if you could just also comment back, because I believe the honorable members are really looking for solutions, and so more information towards what they have raised would be appreciated. Thank you so much. Over to you.
Sure, thank you very much. We'd like to thank the 7 honorable members for giving us your very valuable and very good input in the situation and regarding our presentation. And we'd just like to, respond to a few of them and engage with you and, to further gauge the impact you are requesting. So, to the first honorable member, we thank you very much for your input. We are here today and were invited to present our findings on the SRD grants in a layman's terminology so that everyone who is here understands what we are presenting. We would definitely like to personally provide to you, technical specifications if you would like, but we are not in our capacity here today to do that. We were asked to come here today to present just non-technical specifications on this. Secondly, we would like to address those allegations that we got from you about us hacking. We did not hack in this specific situation. We were, in our slideshow, we clarified the legal methods we used, and to just reiterate, we would use the SASSA publicly available systems to generate our data so we were able to put ID numbers in their system, publicly available, anyone could have done it, and get a response. Thirdly, in the capacity of Poppy Act, we are not companies. Poppy Act, if you have read the law, only applies to public and private companies. In capacity, we are acting here today as individuals and in a personal capacity, which means Poppy Act does not stand any value in this investigation and briefing. Finally, we would love to welcome your idea of a report and in going into an investigation, and we support your idea of going to the department and asking them for an investigation into the situation, and we thank you for that valid input and we support that. Sure, just give us a moment to further clarify something. Okay, to continue with our feedback, we are now going to move to our second honourable member who raised some questions, and we thank you for your input. The first thing we'd like to support is the cross-department use of information, right? Whether that's NASFIS being included, whether it's SARS, whether it's other government services that people are using, integrated into the SASSA system, because from my personal case, the Department of Social Development SASSA system should have picked up the fact that I was receiving money more than 600 Rand in my bank account, that I am a registered taxpayer, and that I did receive a paycheck in that month. So we'd love to support that idea, and the department, on interview with Mr. Van Vrede last week did claim that, they are using these systems in place. But secondly on that, with your idea of facial verification, and we completely support this. We understand that SASSA has told the public and came out publicly that this facial verification is in place. But after our interview, Mr. Cedrus did phone SASSA as in a public capacity to the hotline and requested that can he get the SMS facial verification link so he can sort out his application and resolve the issue. This was completed on last week. He'll probably break that down further when we go into the, I think, fourth MP's response. But we did not get any facial verification link. We were told by the SASSA person, the person on the call center, which we reached out to, that there is no system like this in place. The eKYC or eID verified facial system has not been put in place. We maybe can assume that maybe that people haven't been trained on it yet, and it might be in place, but that's just an assumption. And what we can factually tell you is we were told by SASSA on the phone that the system is not in place. I'd like to now transfer over to my counterpart, Mr. Cedrus, to continue.
Okay, in response to the DA honorable member, you asked us about our timeline. So I want to give you a timeline of the calls that I've made to the National SASSA helpline. And I made these calls in my personal capacity as a citizen, and I was trying to raise the issue of my identity having been stolen. So I made the first call on the 2nd of October, and in this call I was told that I would receive a response in 24 hours, a SMS link to verify myself. I then made 2 calls to the hotline on the 11th of October, and the first set of these calls, I first tried to call their regional call centers, but what happened was I was unable to reach any regional office of SASSA. All of their numbers either said that it does not exist, or it would answer immediately, but there's no response on the other end. Then the final call was last week, Thursday, I believe, and in this call, I asked them if my application has been marked as fraudulent. To this date, my application is still not marked as fraudulent. And in this call, I also asked whether it would be possible to verify myself via the SMS link that was talked about on TV. The person on the other end told me that they do not have the system in place yet on their side. Then, in response to your second question regarding whether or not we've been approached by banks, I would like to confirm that we have been approached by banks, but we will not be naming those.
Just a final thing to add to Joel as a response to the Democratic Alliance MP. You asked us if the students in the Stellenbosch University survey if we asked the students if they knew these grants were for destitute people. And as a response to that, we'd like to say that many of these students who we verbally consented to this didn't even know what SASSA is. We had to explain to them that there's this thing called SRD 370, where unemployed people who are in extreme vulnerable situations have access to this. And, we compared it to the American COVID grant, to try and explain to them. But even the students who did understand were pretty shocked, who did have a prior knowledge of this. They were shocked. They didn't even know that it was possible for them to apply, and would have never personally thought to apply in their capacity as a registered university student at a tertiary institution in South Africa. Please give us a moment. We will continue with this shortly.
Honorable members, I hope you understand that our presenters need some time to, confer and make sure that their responses are to the expectation of the honorable members. They seem to have finished now.
Okay, this response is for the Reverend from the MK Party, honorable member. So you asked us, well, first you stated that you feel that it is a human problem and not a system problem. Our findings suggest that it could be a systemic problem, but we will not rule out the human factor. That is definitely possible. Then you suggested that by making it harder to apply, we might limit accessibility to the SRD grant. That's my understanding. And we feel like the recommendations we've put forward, specifically things like the rate limiting, we don't feel like that would make it difficult for an individual to apply, because rate limiting will only apply to those that try to abuse the system. You then asked about FICA systems at bank, or you stated, and we feel that this is also a good recommendation. The banks could also take over the verification, because they have that technology already in place for when people create bank accounts. So we do agree with you on that. And then I want to again emphasize the fact that we did not hack any systems, we did not breach any systems. You wanted to know whether or not generating ID numbers is allowed, and our view of it is that this is allowed because it is a simple algorithm. ID numbers are composed, what ID numbers are composed of, it is public information. It is published on numerous government websites, including the Western Cape government's website. And all we simply did was use the way, we took the way that ID numbers are composed, and we just generated hundreds of thousands of these. But it's in line with we just used a simple algorithm to do it. There was nothing illegal about that. Thank you.
Will that be all? Oh, okay.
Okay, to continue on with our feedback, we thank the next honourable member, the fifth responder. I'm not sure what political affiliation you are, but we welcome that story. It's a very tragic story to hear, people who've been battling with this issue of grant fraud since July 2023. That is actually when my grant was stolen, because I turned 18 in July 2023, and I was immediately paid out a grant in July 2023, which, it's a very, very sad situation that the most vulnerable actors in South Africa don't even have a way to dispute that the phone number registered to their SASSA grant is not theirs, right? In all our cases, the phone number used in the SASSA application was not your personal phone number. So it was a fraudster's phone number, and there's no way at all to change this online or dispute it online. The only way you can do it is phoning the call center. And as Mr. Cedras has said, he tried that multiple times. And to this date, they still have not resolved that issue. And the phone number linked to his SASSA grant is not his. It's a completely fraudster's ID numbers. Please give us a moment while we deliberate the last two responses to give.
Okay, finally, in response to the statement about the technicalities of our findings, we are willing to directly engage with SASSA and perhaps compile a report or something like that regarding what we did, you know, in terms of the technical details. And then in response to your question, Honourable Member, you asked about slide 8, specifically what the probability of it being that the application rate is so high. And we feel like the probability is extremely low that is actually possible. It shouldn't be possible that there is a 91% application rate. It doesn't seem legitimate. And you know, if we look at our findings from our survey, I think that confirms it, because over 90% of our survey respondents said that they did not create that application themselves. And then you asked us about the attitude of SASSA towards us. In the media statement, we believe SASSA did confirm most of our findings, and in the SABC interview, I think Via would be able to respond to that. No.
Look, on the SABC interview, we had the delight of, you know, engaging with someone from SASSA who we did try to reach out to before, and we weren't doing this from I'm a you know, executive, or I'm a person who's found this. We are concerned citizens who said, we found this issue, we don't know what to do. And when you search up, all we did as responsible citizens was call the SASSA hotline. As a matter of fact, in all instances of this issue, whenever SASSA says, you'll probably hear them say it, we urge people to call the hotline. But the hotline is not equipped to deal with this many fraudulent cases, as we've seen with Mr. Cedras. They are not able to deal with all of these people, you know, especially when I remember when I phoned the SASSA hotline, I was on hold for 30 minutes and then the phone just died. So when there are this many fraudulent cases, it's important to understand that there is no quick and easy fix. You can't say everyone must call the hotline, because there are too many cases of this. I'm not sure if Joel has anything to add to that.
I have nothing to add. Thank you for your questions.
Thank you so much for those responses and those comments. I believe they are constructive for what we seem to be facing as a portfolio committee and the department. Honourable Mnyai wants to have a follow-up question.
It's the order. Oh, okay. Yeah. Honourable Minister and Deputy Minister, if the allegation raised by the student that all SASSA numbers are not working, this is embarrassing to the highest degree. If that is true, I'm saying it's embarrassing. If all SASSA offices numbers presented before the website or whatever the platform are not working, CEO, this is very embarrassing. I'm saying if, I'm putting condition, because I should not be quoted out of context that, you know, I'm qualifying, I'm putting a qualification that if it is true, it's embarrassing. By the way, any form of allegation of fraud, it's also, I'm saying fraud, I'm saying any allegation of fraud and corruption, if they're found to be true, it will be embarrassing. Not only for us as the portfolio committee, but to you, Minister. To you, the Honourable Minister. So now, because we are taking this allegation serious, and we are saying that cyber penetration test supporting, it is very critical, but we must put concrete recommendation. Going forward, we are proposing that SASSA to perform vulnerability assessment and penetration test of embedded system supporting IT system. When I'm saying to you, Minister, I'm directing to you because you must ensure that these things happen. There have to be tools and capabilities development to support vulnerability assessment going forward. There have to be support analysis development of cyber assessments in support of the SASSA high-level requirements and mission need in that context of the investigation. Formal documentation and reporting of discovered vulnerability have to be made available to the Honorable Minister and, as I said, to come and account within 30 days. When you conduct that assessment, Minister, kindly use the best cyber minds from diverse fields of experts in the investigation with respect to cyber operation and sensitive data protection. We're dealing with the Republic of South Africa, the population of this country, who depend for their protection of their own information. To you, the Honorable Minister, with respect to the people with disability, the people that are vulnerable, who really depend on these grants for survival. You have to conduct a malware analysis, not just on the payload when it drops, but how it was made, and you have to build a detection mechanism and analyze the timeline as and when this malware was created, if there was any, relative to when it was used. Old malware, I must say, open quote, close quote, malware off the shelf, but new malware might remain active in the tailored operations. Collect files and metadata for the future analysis. We must say that, if you do that, and I know, Honorable Minister and Honorable Chair, it is critical that to understand that nobody is safe from vulnerability. You can only defend, I'm saying globally. And you must also understand as to why the hackers, I'm not saying you are the hackers. Maybe I can call you alleged hacker or penetrator. But, algorithm, when it's used, it manipulates the data, you know that. As a first-year student who brought with these findings, it can do that. And, I'm saying you already confirmed, I'm not going to go back. But we must understand that, Chairperson, that the battlefield is won and lost in the infrastructure. So available evaluation of the cyber assessment, it's critical. I'm using cyber deliberately because I made my own, from my own technical point of view, how you can address this SASSA problem, Minister. You need a cyber range solution because it can also help you. I don't want to go to technicalities as well because my solution can also be subject for many issues. But I must say, the Chairperson, through you, Chairperson, we know that when there's any form of penetration or manipulation of the system, the intention usually in the world experience is to disrupt services. I'm summarizing. 2, it is also to take the IP, intellectual property. Maybe I need certain design in your company or your NUNCO. I may want to hack, get to your system to get those things. But usually it may disrupt services, such as energy, you can collapse it, but the click of the button, I can collapse another country's nuclear system. So, and I'm saying I'm happy going forward, Chair. It's a last. If there's any, as the outcome of the wrongdoing, if there was anybody that is found to be corrupt, to be fraudulent, to be anything, There have to be consequence managed. I'm saying, I'm putting that condition because investigation is still yet to happen. And we really need that outcome, Minister, in 30 days, in what's called 30 days before this portfolio committee. It's my recommendation.
Thank you, Honorable Mnyai. Honorable Abrams? We
Thank-
do not have any more time.
No, thank you, Chairperson. It's just clarity-seeking questions. I still did not hear clearly, did you or did you not receive that invitation from SASSA to come and present your findings, or did you get it from the Department, Social Development, or from the Minister's Office? Because it was said that, you've been invited numerous times to now come and present. So did you get that invitation? And then I just need to understand, Via, you said that you got a paycheck in your bank account and therefore you should have been ruled out because that paycheck was over 624 Rand. So is that to say that the bank account you are using is in fact the bank account that the fraudsters are also using? It's the same bank account. And then to say, did you not suspect any fraudulent activity if it's the same account? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Mahato, you wanted to say something?
Thank you very much. It's just a small matter. Because the decision is just the two kids must go to the government, I just want to say we need an extensive investigation probing into the allegations. If the allegations are substantiated, this need to welcome the findings and ensure that the department is held to account. So I think our meeting is towards an end because SASSA will not speak anything for now. Okay.
No, please explain what you're saying.
Yes, when I'm thinking of what we were speaking, I think they spoken, we spoke, so SASSA, I don't think they will explain, but it will remain to you.
Thank you, honorable members. There have been.
Just one small question, Chair.
Oh my word. Honorable members, I'm going to take these questions and I hope that they are not going to be long because we literally have two minutes before we should allow SASSA, who will present today, the department and SASSA who will respond. They deserve the right to respond to the presentation that has been done. And we did receive a presentation from SASSA as honorable members. They need to speak to that presentation so that we know what it is that we came here for. I don't see a situation where we have if I can call it allegations being made and then there's no response to it. It wouldn't even make sense. Honorable, was it Honorable Ramaila? You wanted to say something?
Just a quick one, Chair. I wanted to check whether a case was opened in this regard. If it was opened, what is the case number? If not, why not? Thank you.
There was also Honorable Reverend Kobaza.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to, on the recommendations, so that tomorrow maybe we won't be rushing to courts with the two citizens that are there. The biometric, on the recommendations, I think all of these have been recommended to SASSA before, your biometric and also the smart cards and all of these things that are there. They have been recommended from SASSA and presented to SASSA so that we won't go to court tomorrow saying that the citizens were here and they presented an IP or whatnot, and when SASSA move on and implement some of the things. So these things that are recommended here, we have recommended before because this problem is not a problem of today. It's been there ever since. Thank you so much.
Honorable Murray.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. I think, you know what, talking about court cases and all these things is not even necessary. These are two young boys that tried to apply and then they met with all these difficult things, and it is just showing what the system is like. Friday, I was on a flight. I just spoke to member Alexandre. I met the gentleman on the flight, and he was explaining to me he's also working at an IT data company. And he's been trying so long with SASSA and with Eskom, the light, to come and make a presentation. He doesn't want anything, he said. But his presentation can save us millions of rands of how you capture your data and things. And he was asking me if you can speak to the minister and I can come and make a presentation. I will be so honored to do that, especially for Eskom and for SASSA. And when these two boys said they're going to come here, I was saying to myself, you know what? These young boys just tested something and they could see there's a lot of flaws. There's no use, we're not here to come and bully them and say, no, this and this and that. We are here to assist one another. They are young, they are learning, and they saw there's a gap that they can look into. So I want to say is that there's a lot of people out there that do have solutions on how we can solve our problems. But we are not open for anything because every year we are using basically the same service providers. It's not put open for everyone to come in and make presentations, you know. And that is where I feel that let's listen and let SASSA come and say what are their problems. And then we take it from there. Talking about court cases and all these things is not necessary. When they started this thing, that was not near to their minds about court cases and what is illegal or whatever the case may be. So I said, let SASSA respond to this, and we listen to what SASSA is saying, and then we as a committee come together and say, how are we going to take this Department of Social Development further? Chairperson.
Thank you, honourable members. If you could please respond to the follow-up questions and comments.
Thank you very much to the, if I'm correct, 6 MPs for your input. We understand that we are stressed for time and we'll make a effort in, giving quick, speedy responses. Firstly, to the first MP, we understand a lot of your questions were targeted not to us but the minister. You guys can deal that in a separate capacity. But to the questions in which you did give us, we do support them. We do think that there should be internal audits conducted and that there should be vulnerability assessment and testing done before these tools are deployed to the general public, and we support that. Secondly, to the DAMP. Firstly, the engagement we've had with SASSA. So we have reached out to SASSA, as we said, in a general citizen's perspective. We didn't get a response back. After the SABC News interview last week, I did request and reach out personally to Mr. Brenton van Vrede, the Executive Manager and Director of Grant Management, I think, at SASSA, and requested a meeting with him on that day or at his next available point. And I was declined, and I was told by him, I'm going to give you a number to the IT department. If they don't respond within the next 2 days, please reach back out. And I never got a response from the IT department. So I then asked Mr. van Vrede, and I got a message from the Chief Information Officer of SASSA stating that we'd like to meet urgently with you, tomorrow, now, whatever. But we just didn't have any time to meet with them. Because we're busy students, we have tutorial tests, we have exams to prepare for, we have to study. So I advise them, due to our busy schedule, that we'll meet with you either on Wednesday or Thursday when you guys are available. So all of a sudden, we hopefully will meet with them after this or on Thursday. The follow-up question from the Honourable MP was about my personal SASSA grant situation. So the bank account in which I operate from, which I opened when I opened with my father when I was 13, and that's where my paycheck was received in. But what the fraudsters were able to do was open a bank account with another bank, right? Not the bank I currently use. And the matter of fact is there's no way to tell if you have 2 bank accounts open, right? I, in my personal capacity, knew that I had this one bank account that I was using. I had the card. and I was spending money on that account. But if a fraudster was able to open up a secondary bank account with a completely different bank with a different phone number, I would never know. Unless I walk into the bank and say, can I open up a bank account? And then they'll tell you, oh, sorry, so you have a bank account with us already. And then I'm going to let Mr. Cedrus continue when dealing with the next responses.
In response to your question, sir, about the fraud cases and why we have not opened them, the reason for us not opening fraud cases is because we don't know who to lay fraud charges against. Is it against SASSA or is it against the people who have stolen our identities, who we actually don't know? So at the moment, we are seeking legal advice in that regard. Thank you.
Just to add on to what Mr. Cedrus has said in regard to that, and it's that we have no way of telling who these fraudsters are, and that's because the phone numbers which were used on our fraudulent SASSA applications were not our own, and you guys might have heard of the RICA Act. The RICA Act, which regulates telecommunications and states that, back in the past, you'd have to walk into a physical shop, give your ID, and they would validate that, upload that to the database. But the truth is that there is widespread RICA fraud currently in today's society, which, does have to be overcome. And that's why when we will, engage further with the investigation, we'll probably end up discovering that the phone numbers on our SASSA applications are possibly to a person that is deceased, or a person that didn't even realize his ID was fraudulently being used. Following that, we received a couple of comments on the line of, sorry, if I am correct, the biometric systems and whether a presentation can be made to the committee, to save us millions of rands, and we welcome that. We understand that by doing something like this, especially if an individual is willing to do it for free, we are doing this for free. So we think that there's a lot of talent available in this country of cybersecurity experts and people in the IT industry, and we can't wait. I think the one gentleman earlier did state we can't wait 4 or 5 years for an investigation. This is something that needs to be addressed now, because if it isn't addressed now, the most vulnerable people in our society are going to get hit the worst. Because 370, although not a lot of money, is the backbone and the basis of the food for them, food for the people who really need it for that month, and the basic necessities just for them to survive. And this is something that, can solve base hunger, in our country. And we would love to advocate for that. And without further ado, I'd like to give it back to the chair. I'm not sure if there'll be time for any further questions, but thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I really want to believe that the presentation that was made has been responded to, and even follow-up questions were asked and responded to as well. So I would like to thank you, gentlemen. I saw that you started very well with the honorable members and the honorable chairperson. By the end, it was you guys. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but I really appreciate the fact that you followed protocol right to the end. And so I think the questions that I personally had to you have been covered by colleagues as they were asking questions as a result of your presentation. But I would like to now, as I hand over to the Honorable Minister, to say that we are now going to be getting a response from SASSA, the department, and SASSA to the presentation that has just been made. Thank you so much, Honorable Minister.
Thank you so much, Honorable Chairperson and the members of the committee. Once again, I must really appreciate your initiative of having to convene this meeting outside your schedule of meeting that is known and is in the public domain. I must also really, in the most emphatic way, thank the honorable members who have been able to trace back the history of the problem that we are dealing with today. On a face value, we wouldn't know and understand, but due to their own understanding and be in that space, they were able to take me back. And that suggests that this is not new. In fact, at some point, they were trying to bring some solutions. However, with all the sins and our weaknesses as SASSA and department, we did not really adhere to their advices. That's what the members are saying. Even when ordinary members were raising their voices, they were not heard. That makes me to come closer to the two gentlemen who, out of their own personal experience, remember they brought us into their own personal space. We are here now today because they allowed us to get into their personal space because it was not out of any kind of curiosity. It was because of what they've gone through as younger people who deserve to get grants because the Constitution dictates so. And SASSA and DSD is given that responsibility. Therefore, it's the DSD's mandate through SASSA, its entity, to make sure that this grant is being distributed to the right place, to the right people at the right time. So I really appreciate these two young men to have been able to, in their own way, to bring us closer to what the problem is. Because between ourselves, we have been talking about it, we had a lot of time, and they brought it to us in a manner that says, you don't have time. You rather resolve the matter now. Other than that, you will be alleged to be one of those who took away the least thing that the poor people had. And you took away what was supposed to be theirs and create an impression that you are doing them a favor. Therefore, we have undermined their constitutional right. Maybe you should have gone to appear before the structures that are relevant to that effect when a department of government is not adhering into its own constitutional responsibility. We don't take that lightly. And in fact, we are taking it very, very serious. For that reason, Honorable Chairperson, that this problem has been traced back, the earliest is 2023. I guess with thorough investigation, it can take us beyond. If you can start to listen and hear closely all the complaints that people were making, but also come closer through an intensive investigation into our own system. Yes, SASSA might have done that, but there are two eyes. I mean, their systems, they could not pick up anything. The fact that you are here today is because they couldn't. I don't want to address myself to the attitude. This attitude of when people raise issues, don't know, there's time, we can resolve them later, there's no hurry. I think I must take upon myself, DM, to say, we had to deal with that. There's no way that we can delay what is more urgent to the poor people. And as such, Honorable Chairperson and the members, I really want to appeal to say, as myself, DM, we're taking it upon ourselves to go and investigate, to find out exactly what this animal is. How far has it been in the space? And to an extent, giving how much did it add up to our fiscus that is shrinking on a daily basis? Yes, Honorable Chairperson, that should not take forever. It can't be, because when we seated here, we don't know how much are we losing through our system, through this vulnerability of our system. Therefore, it cannot be a matter that should be tackled over 5 years. It cannot be a matter that must be tackled over a year. I guess 30 days makes sense to us to say, even if you have not concretely completed your report, gives us something that suggests on what we have done between now and that time. Give us tangible turnaround strategies that seeks to close the gap where there are leakages. Because in that one, we can't wait. You don't know on an annual basis, the fiscus is shrinking, we are getting lesser budget, means that in the next financial year, you might be getting lesser. So we must rescue what we have and make sure that we build on it. As such, Honorable Chairperson, I want to appeal to say, let SASSA not present, because they will present what you all had to gone through for the last years or so. Which the information that we have in front of us does not talk to the solutions of what we are going through at the present moment. We're able to listen to your TV interviews. Indeed, we were found wanting in responding. And you can imagine what will you say over that day and today. What is it that is tangible that will bring, that seeks to deal with the problems that are so persistent, as according to the members of parliament who made it very clear to us. So I want to appeal to say, allow us to go back, allow us to come back in 30 days with to an extent, complete report that also give, if there's a culprit, there should be consequence management employed. Because it can't be, as these young men were correctly saying, I hear them saying, you are not doing your work. And as such, you leave people who are vulnerable, even more vulnerable. For the fact that I applied for the grant, then I became a target of your systems that are not working. People are getting grant on my behalf. That's quite serious. So it cannot be like what we were raising in the last meetings. It is now more urgent and extremely urgent for us to quickly deal with the matter. Give them an opportunity to talk closer to us. I commit. There might be all the problems of not being available on Thursday, on Wednesday, and so on and so on. We won't get into that. I say I'm available. Anytime they want to engage with us, I'll be leading that team so that they take us into confidence and make us to hear more on the vulnerability of our system. I want to appeal, Chair, to say, leave us with the DSD as the department responsible for its entities. One member said, it's SASSA, it's NDA. We haven't received anything for now. We don't know what's coming tomorrow. Means that DSD itself must bring itself into that space of making sure that it plays a more effective oversight to its entities. It can't be that entities are leading their own lives, whilst the money that they are using in dispersing grants are getting through DSD. You would know better, Chair, what the AG is saying about us. And most biggest holes are in the SASSA grant, as honorable members have been articulating. We all know we have that report by now. So I want to appeal to say, Honorable Chair, please allow us to go back, because I don't want that rhetoric. I don't even want to irritate honorable members by bringing those old recitations that we used to put before you. That does not necessarily give the actual answers on the problem at hand. So I want to appeal to say, give us 30 days, let us lead this ourselves, myself and Deputy Minister, bring a DSD on the center, bring a SASSA, and make sure that in 30 days we give you answers, and answers that are complete. How are you changing things around for every citizen that is eligible to get his or her grant is able to get that grant in time without all these difficulties? How do we close the gaps and the leakages that seek to drain our fiscus? We will do that. You say, honorable members, beyond us as a DSD and as SASSA, let's look at people who have a more understanding on the systems, sharper, that can quickly advise us to make sure that our endeavor is to make sure that we pay the right people the right time. That's what we are here for, myself and DM. Everything else, we must marshal everybody to that direction, which we commit to say we will do that in 30 days. We'll be giving me a report. These two gentlemen will be proud for what they've done to raise their voice and allow everybody to get into their personal space. Now everybody knows that they are in need of a grant. It's very personal. Should not be known by everybody. However, because of their commitment to their country, they've opened up. We must appreciate them and congratulate them, but then say, come closer, hear more, what will be their own suggestions, and later we give them a complete report so that themselves, they can then say during their studies, their understanding as citizens, they contributed in building stronger system for everybody else to benefit as part of the Republic. In that, Honorable Chairperson, that will be my humble plea to you and the honorable members. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, for that. I just need, let's say, 5 minutes to understand with you if what I'm hearing is what I seem to be hearing, so that I can, on that basis, then be able to represent the honorable members adequately, because because it has to do with the agenda changing, I guess. I just want to, 5 minutes, please, adjournment of this meeting, and then I will, unless you want to speak to the entire meeting. No, Honorable Munyai was first. I will come to you.
In fact, it makes sense, Honorable Chairperson, and I know you're still going to engage them. It makes sense that when their allegations are made, to give the opportunity to the department to investigate and come with urgent, concrete action to resolve the matter. That's the only logical conclusion we can have. Thank you.
Honorable Abrams.
Thank you, Chairperson. And Chairperson, it does not make sense to me. We have invited SASSA here to come and give feedback on this. The agenda has been adopted. We wanted to make amendments to the agenda, and some colleagues and some honourable members said no when we foresaw this would happen. Then, Chairperson, Parliament has been gutted by fires. We do not have venues that are televised. So to say that members of the public and that SASSA is now going to be giving us the same feedback that they've given us before already, there are members of the public that hasn't seen that feedback because we are in rooms that are not broadcasted to the public, and it is a matter of national importance that this issue get broadcasted today to the members of the public. Secondly, or thirdly, Chairperson, we just sat with the Auditor General talking about fruitless and wasteful expenditure. There are over 10 officials that have flown down from Joburg on taxpayers' money that are maybe sleeping over, I don't know, and then just to simply send them away after we haven't even heard from them, that is not Parliament holding SASSA to account. Then on the last point, Chairperson, we are all calling for an investigation, but it cannot be, we already know that SASSA cannot investigate themselves. We've been saying that. The department also cannot be investigating SASSA. It's one of the entities. The investigation should go to the SIU level and to the Commission of Inquiry level, because this has been going on for far too long. So, Chairperson, while you deliberate with the Minister, I strongly suggest that we hear SASSA's presentation, and then if there are questions that SASSA cannot answer, they can then tell us, these are questions we will come back to you at a later date. But to have 10 officials fly down from Joburg and not present, that makes us complicit in fruitless and wasteful expenditure, Chairperson.
Thank you, honourable members. Please, can I have my 5 minutes? I still need it. I have a decision to make, and I need to base it on some short and brief discussion with the honourable minister and the honourable DM. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, honourable member. We shall resume the meeting at 11:50.